It's August 2023, and one of the most talked about innovations over the past year has been generative AI tools like ChatGPT. In just a short span, it has entered the mainstream. Every industry is looking at it and trying to figure out how to best leverage it and how to address the threat posed by it. Healthcare is, of course, one of those industries. We wanted to get some straight talk about ChatGPT and how it is impacting provider-sided marketing. So we reached out to Chris Pace, Chief Digital Marketing Officer at Banner Health. He'll be joining us on today's program to discuss ChatGPT, how he is using it, and what guardrails he and his team have placed on it. Chris also shared some pragmatic strategies on how to best leverage this new technology. Hello and welcome to Sway Health, where we bring you the latest insights and interesting stories from the brightest minds in healthcare marketing. I'm Colin Hung, and I invite you to watch and listen to this discussion with Chris Pace. So get ready to be inspired, learn some new tricks, and take your marketing game to the next level. Let's jump right in. Chris, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Colin. Super excited to be here.
I'm excited to dive into you on this topic because it is such a hot one right now. Generative AI and tools like ChatGPT are just everywhere and everyone's talking about them. But before we dive in, Chris, can you give us a quick overview about your role and your organization for our audience?
Yeah. So I work at a company called Banner Health, and we're based in Phoenix, Arizona. And we're one of the largest health systems in the United States, largest employer, private employer in the state of Arizona. And grand total, there's about 52,000 colleagues of mine that try to do the great things in healthcare that make people's lives a little bit easier and better. I'm on a team called Brand Experience, and I lead the digital marketing function, which encompasses kind of what you'd expect in that role: social media and content creation, performance marketing for service lines, and then bannerhealth.com, which is one of the more visited healthcare websites in all of our industry. So it's a very, I'm very humbled and fortunate to be on such a great team and work with brilliant minds. And so, and I'm also grateful to be here. So look forward to the discussion.
Today, want to talk to you about ChatGPT and generative AI. I know this is something you're going to be talking about at the SHSMD conference that's coming up. So in your opinion, Chris, where can generative AI tools like ChatGPT be effectively and, more importantly, pragmatically used in healthcare marketing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, this is one of those things that I always have to timestamp anytime I'm talking about generative AI, because what I say today may be false tomorrow, or maybe, irrelevant next week. But as of August 2023, let's say, I think the concept of leveraging technology to gain efficiency is something that marketers have been embracing for years, decades. And it's, some use the term like do more with less. I feel like that's, kind of marginalizing people and resources. But, it's more about thinking differently to solve problems on behalf of your customers. And so where generative AI tools, I think, can provide a pretty significant benefit is helping accelerate things like ideation, accelerate the concepts of copy editing and really adding skill sets to people's roster versus taking away work from people. I know that's one of the most, I guess, aside from like the Terminator scenario where AI just takes over the globe and people become a nuisance. Maybe we are, but the bottom line is, you want to empower your teams by first having the right people getting that in a good spot, working relationship strategy, which leads to a good process to develop those campaigns or those, working with stakeholders to achieve common goals. And then you layer in the technology piece, which helps facilitate a lot of this stuff. So, that to me, like at a very high level, is how you employ any technology. Is really thinking through the people in the process first, getting that nailed down and good. Then the technology just helps make it a little bit more faster to market, more efficient, however you want to look at it.
So, Chris, I want to key in on something you said there. Using these tools to help with ideation, how would you do that?
Yeah. So, one of the things that our team has been really successful at is looking at trending things that might be popping up in the social sphere. TikTok is really like the fastest speed to market in terms of new trends, new flashes in the pan. And you kind of have to be ready to react to things almost in real time. But the trick with being a healthcare content producer is that trust and relevancy weigh in pretty heavy into that algorithm. And so when it comes to ideation, what I'm thinking in this space is, how do you take sort of high level topics and dissect them into a couple different bite-sized pieces?
Okay.
And with remote work, brainstorming sessions are kind of like, everything's scheduled. It's all calendar based and, Zoom based. So you don't just like go huddle in a room anymore and spitball things. So one thought is, well, maybe if you could use like some kind of generative AI tool, again, you have to weigh the pros and the cons of the tool. Where is the data being sourced from? How strong is your prompt game? I think that's another skill that is becoming almost like it's probably going to be a 400 level course in colleges at some point. Prompting for experts in marketing. But that to me is really where you can dissect one thought and then sort of ladder it into a couple different thoughts, and then you take that packaging, work with your subject matter experts on these topics, your content teams, whether it's insourced or outsourced, and then start to build the content pieces. What I would highly advise against at least August of 2023 is using any open source content generation tool to be your writer, because again, there's just too much noise and hallucination in a lot of these sort of first generation tools that if you want to erode your trust and your place with Google, then that's the first way to do it.
So Chris, I want to ask you about that. You've obviously spent a lot of time thinking about and using tools like ChatGPT. Are there any warning labels, Chris, that you think should be placed on ChatGPT for its use in healthcare?
Yeah. So I think in a general sense, I don't know that ChatGPT is going to be the one to self-police itself. It's up to marketing leaders and probably even a click higher, privacy teams, security, legal, need to have a discussion. If a tool like ChatGPT were to become a part of your marketing practice, and let's say you had the ability to sign a contract with some kind of generative AI tool, which there are some out there. So, Salesforce just added a new appliance to their marketing cloud. I think it's called Einstein GPT. So there's a lot out there that can be in those walled gardens. I think that's the first step, is have it under contract, have a BAA in place, business associates agreement. Once you have that, I think, the best of breed marketers out there that are going to use tools to their advantage are going to have generative AI tools that they've trained in-house. Um, the open web is too littered with noise where you're going to get any level of accuracy. And again, like back to the point I was just making, if you want to erode trust and favor with your audience and with Google, having blindness to your sourcing of your information is going to get you there really fast. So make sure that you have informed whatever tool you have on record with the appropriate sourcing, and it's going to learn over time. So just it's going to evolve and require that iterative process. So crawl, walk, run is like the perfect analogy here.
So with so many privacy issues, and you just mentioned one, using an openly available tool like ChatGPT could put you at risk, especially depending on what you're putting into it as inputs. How have you been able to navigate, like, encouraging basically your team to use tools and to try these tools, because they will be tools that we use every day eventually? So how do you encourage it on one hand, yet be cautious on the other side? What have you done to help navigate or thread that needle?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the thing that's sort of resonated the best is use it as if you were searching Google, as a start point. So, or like how you would post some information on Twitter. You're not going to go or X, whatever you want to call it. You're not going to post on X or on Instagram or Facebook something highly personal unless you knew it was sort of guarded. And then you still have some risk, and so you have to weigh the pro and con there. With Google search, Google learns based on how you search and keeps feeding you results based on your patterns. That's how ChatGPT would also work. So I think, what I've instructed the team on is, you kind of determine the guardrails on what is most comfortable, but also know that outside those guardrails we're never putting any proprietary information about, banners, business goals, what have you. So it's keep it simple, keep the prompts in a more like search like or query like experience, and then obviously you have to put the human layer on top and make sure that you're not just blindly copying and pasting information, that you have an end game in mind with what it is you're trying to pull out of it.
There's a lot of hype and hysteria, let's be honest, around generative AI. I mean, I personally don't think generative AI is going to be the one that becomes Skynet. I could be wrong, but there is a lot of that going around. What would you say to our audience to cut through all of that? In other words, what's the real nugget of truth that they should remember from our conversation, but B, just in general about generative AI?
Yeah, so I think backing up a bit from the generative, but AI has been around for forever because it's math, and math has been around as long as people have. So, the complexity and the processing speed of math equations is really what's gotten us here. We have the ability and the capacity to do more calculations faster, and that is going to continue to happen over time. It's like that Moore's law, things double in processors double in speed every 18 months or whatever. I feel like it's a little faster than that now, but as we get into quantum computing and all this stuff that has been imagined for decades and now is starting to come to light, at the end of the day, there's still people and teams and processes and strategy that drive all of the things. And so anything that can help your organization be more nimble, move a little quicker, gain some kind of competitive advantage, is always a good thing. And also in life, everything is about managing risk. So, you have to look at the positives of gained efficiency with the, maybe the pull down of added risk and place the bets over and over again. But at the end of the day, this is all math. People create it, and will continue to evolve as it evolves.
Have you seen any truly innovative uses of ChatGPT or generative AI in healthcare in your reading or your travels, Chris?
So I think the latest thing that's kind of got me excited isn't so much in the marketing space, but on the provider facing side. Epic about a month or so ago had released some generative AI tools in notes and documentation inside of the Epic My Chart. And I know one of the biggest things that sort of society in general is up against is access to affordable and quality healthcare. And we also have physician burnout to think about, and even outside of physician, but clinical burnout, and people are just opting out of being in the healthcare game on the delivery side. So using tools of efficiency to keep administrative tasks at the sort of the lowest level, and giving the folks the ability to do the why of why they chose the career they did, which is helping others, caring for people, I think is a good thing for everybody. And similar to how 100 years ago we had safety laws go into effect in manufacturing, and we had automated processes and assembly lines go into play to help reduce injuries, to increase production. We're going through one of these sort of once in a century evolutions right now that should net out at a betterment of human life experience. And certainly for our providers who have gone through a lot in the last 5 years, 4 years, if there's something that keeps them, again, patient facing, it's good for the entire health organization to have that type of technology.
Chris, final question for you. What would you want our audience to take away from our discussion today? What's the one nugget? What's the one thing that you would want them to walk away with?
I think don't be afraid. That this is something that is getting a lot of hype, a lot of noise, and it's at the end of the day, it'll just be a thing we use in the many tools that are in our tool belt to do the things we need to do. I do think that sound strategy and planful execution always wins, no matter what tools you're using. So keep doing the thing. Don't be afraid. Try new things. It's always better to learn and adapt.
Chris, it's been great having you on the program, and I can't wait to hear more about this at the various conferences where you're doing a talk on these topics over the next few months. So
yeah,
and by the way, you were very wise to timestamp this, because you're right. By the time this airs, and if someone's watching this 6 months from now, we could be totally talking about something different with the rate that these tools are changing.
Twitter might not be called X anymore. You never know. So.
There you go. It might be back.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Chris, thank you so much for everything you shared. I'm sure our audience will appreciate it, and we appreciate you having you on the program.
Awesome. Thanks, Colin.
I want to thank Chris Pace again for spending time with us today, and for sharing all the great insights and information about how he is using ChatGPT. I especially loved how he talked about looking for a generative AI tool from an organization that's willing to sign a BAA with you, and how using the raw output from the current generation of generative AI tools may be a quick way to erode trust rather than gain it. And hey, if you enjoyed this interview as much as I did, we'd love for you to mash that like button and to subscribe to this channel. Also, head on over to sway.health. That's sway with 2 A's, .health. That's where you'll find more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you on the next video.